So I'm adjusting the suspension on our bus for the first time, so I'm going to start this video off with an unboxing of all the tools I purchased and used to do the work. Harbor Freight was the place to go for me just because they had a jumbo wrench set of 6 pieces for a total of $70, even though I just needed one wrench, which was actually 1 7/8 inches, this one right here. But I thought, heck, for the price, why not have all 6? Next, I have an air hydraulic bottle jack, and my main reason for buying this is because I did not want to be underneath the bus while I was actually jacking it up. So this actual jack, it has an air assist function on it, and it has about a 4-foot air hose lead, and it just made it very easy for me to kind of stand off to the side and jack the bus up without having to be underneath it once I placed it on top of these ginormous 22-ton jack stands. Now, some people might think this is overkill, and I actually did too at first, but then I was just like, well, when you have a bus that weighs about 37,000 pounds above you, the last thing you want to worry about is it falling down. Now, the only drawback to these particular jack stands is that they only have 4 set points, and they are all about 1.5 inches, or I think about 2 inches apart. So if you need any setting in between that, you're gonna have to get creative with raising the jacks off the ground. So I've got the wheels chalked, both front and back. Did the other side too. Full disclosure, I'm doing this on my own behalf. You know, you don't have to follow the way I'm doing it. I already know what's wrong with my suspension, and I'm just adjusting it. And I don't feel like there's a need to do a complete adjustment on my bus because the ride height in the rear is where it needs to be. I'm under the bus, and I have the passenger side steer tire to my left here. Now, what I'm going to be doing is moving this bolt outwards like this to adjust this arm out, and then that in turn will push the bus up off the ground. Now, what I need to do first is make sure that I have used a blaster on all of these bolts that I'm going to be loosening. So this is the bolt that I need to move down to the ride height I want. And then there's also a secondary bolt right here. So there's the secondary bolt. And basically that bolt, I'm gonna be pushing this way to help push this arm out. I need to loosen this bolt here and here, and then do the same over there and there. Now I need to jack the bus up first before I loosen any of these bolts. So I've sprayed all of these joints down with Blaster. It's not gonna be the easiest thing to get to. As you can see, my wrench is gonna have to come right up in here somehow. So that's gonna be a fun task. I have about 4 inches of adjustment here, and I'm gonna be bringing this bolt all the way out to here to raise my bus back up to regular height. I can use this as a point to push to get my jack underneath here. If you're gonna be jacking your bus off of the ground, use this bulkhead and not this. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the jack in place, and I've got it positioned right under that bulkhead. And so now I'm just going to start jacking it up. Something I learned from raising the suspension is that you actually do not need jack stands to do this at all. You can just raise the bus up to the height that you want it to sit at, and then adjust all of the arms to the position you need them to be at. But there's probably no harm in owning jack stands that will hold my bus off the ground. So I've dropped it down onto the jacks. Everything's setting solid, and now I've just got to loosen these bolts up, and I'll have to do that on that side and the front as well, and then I'll start backing these off. So I am using a 1/2 inch breaker bar. This is a 15/16 deep socket. Deep socket's not necessarily needed, and I'm using it to break those bolts, that bolt there and there loose. I've got to get these here, and I've already gotten these loose. And believe it or not, it was a simple job for this guy here. I've backed this off a little more than an inch, and for every 1.5 to 2 inches of ride height adjustment you want to go up, you back these off 1 inch. So I needed to raise the passenger side about 3 inches, and I needed to raise the driver's side about 4 inches. Now, this is the driver's side, and you can see here, made really good progress. Almost 3 inches of ride height adjustment here, and this side needed to be raised higher than the passenger side because I was sitting lower on this side. But what I've been doing, since I didn't clean these off, what I've been doing, I've got the wrench on there, and basically when you first back it off, it's going to be very easy, and then as you start working your way to loosen it, it's going to get tight. And what I've been doing is when it starts to get tight is I just back the wrench off about a half a turn and then just wiggle it to kind of work all that junk loose off of this bolt, and then I just keep churning it until it starts to get tight again. And then once again I just go back and forth to work all the crud out of the threads. And if you look here, you can see it's really clean. So and it's worked very well, and that's what a lot of the crud looks like on there. So we've just loaded the bus up, got everything situated, got our drawers all locked up, everything shut down and everything tied back. Bed is messy because that's just how we travel. And we just finished getting all tied up. I'm gonna switch my camera here, and now we got our Jeep going. All right, here we go. Our first stop is we're gonna go to a little
Cantina attraction.
There you go, Mexican Cantina attraction, and this is just outside of El Paso, Texas. And our estimated drive time is approximately 4 hours, but we all know how bus life is. It's going to take a little bit longer than that. Apologize for the bumps. But so for now, we're just heading out of El País, and we're getting ready to get on I-10 East and get our drive going. So we're just making a quick stop. I've gone about 50 miles, so I'm gonna get the tape measure, and I'm just gonna see how everything kind of have settled. Now, I never did anything to the back. I'm gonna go ahead and start at the back. So, right at 46. Really, my tags, they're not gonna be much different because they're based off of weight. I come up here to the front, and this is what I really wanted to do, was bring my front end up, and you can see, look at that, a little high on this side compared to the back, which that's okay. This is the main side I wanted to get up a little higher, and I can tell that I probably got about a ½ inch still I need to come up, and you can see it's still a little low over here. So that's not, it's now that I've done it once, it's really not hard to do it again. So just for giggles, again, you can see this whole side is a little lower, but I think when I bring the front end up, that'll correct that. Again, so see, we're pretty happy with that. The bus is riding way different than it was. I'm gonna go ahead and jack the bus up again and go ahead and correct this. When I first did this, I really just overanalyzed it and just made it a really big deal, and it's really not that difficult. It's gonna be great to finally get the suspension dialed in, and even Oscar is excited about that. Just a happy dog? Just a happy dog? Well, that's one way to take care of your trash. So we made it safe and sound to La Pistolas, right there. And in the meantime, Oscar and I are gonna have a little fun. So it's the next morning. We're at a Home Depot, and something I found out while we were filling our fresh water is that at some point I lost the exhaust pipe to our water heater. So I am at Home Depot. I'm just gonna go in real quick, get another 1.5 inch pipe, and I'm also gonna do the final adjustment front of my suspension. I'm gonna raise it up to 47 inches on both sides. This will do. Well, that was easy. $22 to fix something. Okay, I'm underneath here one final time, hopefully. I'm just gonna back this bolt over to here. So about 1/2 inch, and that should give me the 1 inch I need. And then I'll tighten that bolt, and that'll push the arm over. And once it gets tight, this should be all the adjustment I need. Now that side, I'll probably do almost a full inch. I'll get going on this. Check back in here in a second. It's a little hard to do this because it is tight. So as you can see, once you get the threads cleaned, it's like butter. Use like a wire wheel on a drill and get these clean as you possibly can. And that will definitely make your life easier when it comes time to adjust all this stuff. About 6 hours of turning bolts to get this like that. So it's good now. That's about my 1/2 inch that I want. And now this will start to move very easy, but as it tightens, it's gonna start pushing the suspension towards the ground, or it'll start pushing the tire towards the ground. It will get tough to move this arm out. Now I've also loosened these bolts and these bolts. And in the manual, it actually says to loosen the bottom bolts too, but I have not seen anyone else suggest that in any other manuals. Plus, this is part of the mounting housing for this entire suspension, so I'm not going to touch these. So now I'm just going to start adjusting the suspension out. So that took about 30 quarter turns, and I didn't go all the way out to 1 inch. I went 3/4 of an inch, and I ended up jacking this up a little more just to take some of the pressure off the spring. I've already tightened everything back down. Just reach over occasionally and grab your support and see if it's free, because if you've jacked it up that far, that means whatever height you have jacked your fender up to, you are now pushing the bus off the ground using the spring. I'm going to lower the jack down and see where it's sitting. If I got lucky, we'll be just right. So I got the tape out. So yeah, I've jacked it up right up to 40, well, not quite. So 47 1/4. And now I'm gonna let it down and see where it lands. So dead center, and I think I can live with that. That's pretty good. So get my jack out from underneath here. Now I know that's gonna shift a little whenever I jack this side of the bus up, but that's okay. I'm okay with that. Well, let's get this set up and get everything measured and figure out where we're gonna be on things. All right, so on the passenger side, we are at 46.5. So I think doing the other side brought this side up a little bit. So really it's about the same adjustment on this side. So we'll get that knocked out real quick, and then we can get back on the road. All right, we're just gonna repeat the same thing for this side. I'm gonna loosen these bolts first, right here and here. Same thing on the front, the two on the bottom. And then I'll go up and back that nut there on the right, and then I'll go over to the left side and start pushing it out. I'm gonna put on there. And this one's in tight. So I'm gonna put the camera down because I wanna be ready. Gonna do the same thing I did over there and come out 1 entire inch. All right, let the pain begin. So it's a little tougher than I thought on this side. That means the tire's still carrying a lot of weight. So I'm gonna go ahead and raise up this side probably another inch or two. But I already have the bolt where I want it, so I know that's how far out I'm going. all that, and I've made it maybe 1/4 of an inch, 3/8. But I'm just checking my jack to make sure that it's still carrying the load. Just a little bit further to go. As I was saying, the higher you raise your bus off the ground using the bottle jack, the easier it will make adjusting that nut on the bolt. Now, the higher you have your bus jacked off the ground or raised off of the tires, the easier it will make adjusting this arm outward. But if at any point it starts to get very difficult and you still haven't made it to the end of the position of where you have put that nut, you have definitely started to raise your bus even further off the ground. All right, that's quite a bit. Or I'm going to tighten everything up, let it down. And if that's not where it needs to be, then I'll get back up under here and fix it. Over here and hit this side again. Dead center. Ooh, looks like we brought her up a little. 47 1/4. And oh, money. All right, perfect. Well, that's relieving. I can't believe I got it right on the first shot. So anyways, so it's gonna settle a little over time. I wanted to get it back up to a drivable height. On. So that's exact same on the other side. I love it. I think I can live with that. Glad to bring you guys along with me on doing this little job. So we got the suspension fixed and made it about 100 miles down the road and noticed a loud grinding noise coming out of the engine area. So my guess is the radiator fan bearings or clutch or something is going out. So looks like we'll be dealing with this today too. So